Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to the Lunarian News Network, your source for League news. We received an amazing outpouring of support after our first episode, and you'll probably notice some new names in the credits and a new face in our co-anchor chair. Yes, joining me this week is the lovely Alexa LaFay.
Indeed, it is I, the High Femme Lich Queen, the unsung fifth elemental fiend, unofficial official Bursk spokeswoman, and shirtless Golbez aficionado, Alexa LaFay.
Yes, that is what it said on your resume. I guess that also explains your crown made of bones?
Dress for the job you want, not the job you have, darling.
Okay then, so with that sage advice in mind, let's move on to the race recap. In match 21, our racers were given a favorable start with Sid, Hallam, and the Baron Key. An early hook and Fabul, along with access to the Baron Key, the Earth Crystal from Ordeals, and the Twin Harp and Baron Inn, drove our runners to start clearing the overworld in hopes of avoiding the Upper Babel dip. However, all they received for their full overworld clear were underground quest chains. Fusoya helped Swim and Leone vanquish Odin and open the underground nearly an hour into the seed, with Couch and Invenerable hot on his heels. Ginger Damas, who was trailing behind, bailed for the moon, but wasn't rewarded as Swimmy and Invenerable got the crystal from Ogopogo at the Odin spot mere seconds apart. However, Invenerable and Swimmy needed to grind first, giving Couch the chance to slay the serpent and take down Zeromus, winning with his physical DPS team by only 17 seconds.
So, if you wanted a jet seed, you had one here in match 22. Rosa, Sid, Pan, and a magma key at Antlion set our runners up to make a big sprint, and shops that were stacked to the rafters set up an easy siren grind as soon as our runners wanted one. Fizz makes a play to get the tower key off Ordeals, and while our other three runners were finding a ton of power in Edge and Fusoya, Fizz was stealing the crystal from the Magus sisters atop Babil, with just Kane and an Earth Hammer. The pass fell into place from the tower key, and Fizz was off to the grind. Dusty Griff matched the pass play while Choco and Muppets drew the Darkness Crystal at Odin for their moon access. Fizz held a 2-minute win over Dusty, and Muppets' Tri-Zerker turned a close Zeromus start into a commanding third place.
Our best pal Golbez handed Palome and Kane the Magma Key at the start of match 23, and with early sirens and coffins available, racers headed to the underworld to unlock the awesome power of Quake. Couch was the first to return for the depths and found that Fabul held both the pass and the Darkness Crystal, resulting in a wide open seed at less than 15 minutes in. The racers split up across the overworld, underworld, and moon, hunting for the ever-elusive crystal and following any key item trails they could find. After exhausting several key item chains, Demarin recovered the crystal in the land of summon monsters from the Magus sisters, with Hippos claiming it just a few minutes later. Both racers entered the Zeromus fight at practically the same time, but with a few additional levels on his White Mage and a full standing party, Hippos eked out a victory over Demarine at 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 55 seconds, separated by only 13 seconds in one of the earliest open seeds we've seen so far.
Sid, Rosa, and a magma key led us to a very open start for match 24. Most of the racers immediately dived the underground on the hunt for the crystal. After the initial checks led nowhere, many of them went back to the overworld and were rewarded with the crystal in the Fabul Gauntlet spot. It wasn't long after that Mr. Ubik found Mist Dragon at the Dwarf Castle, and was rewarded with the Darkness Crystal from Ridio's mother. Our other racers quickly followed the trail, which made for a very close race for Zeromus. Mr. Ubik was the first to reach the Zeromus fight and was able to barely squeeze out a first place finish of 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 1 second. Nirm closed in right behind Mr. Ubik with a second place of 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 29 seconds, and Chokosura took third.
With Sid, Yang, and a Magma Key start for match 25, racers could go seemingly anywhere, but find themselves in a fairly linear seed until Nightdew decides to head to Mount Ordeals, finding the first piece of Go mode, the Darkness Crystal, at more than 45 minutes in. But rather than using it, he decides to join Great White Hope and Big Dunka in a committee meeting in the Land of Summoned Monsters, leaving Penguinator to be the first to visit the moon. Eventually, all the racers head to the moon, but Penguinator is the first to find the Luca Key and be rewarded with the crystal protected by none other than Golbez. As such, Penguinator is the first to Z, sticking to reflect-only strats and delivering one last nuke after a near party wipe to close the fight in spectacular fashion at 1 hour 36 minutes and 22 seconds. Nightdew follows up in second place, just ahead of Big Dunka, with Great White Hope taking fourth shortly thereafter.
Match 26 began with Sid and Tella setting off with a spoon in their pockets. At 4 minutes in, though, Dragondark discovered a vanilla D-mist that led directly to the Magma Key. Instead of pressing his advantage, he set about clearing the overworld, which gave Invenerable, Zyrak, and Silverfire a chance to catch up. Even so, Dragondark was the first to find the Darkness Crystal, but it was Invenerable who dove tower to find the crystal. Zyrak and Dragondark weren't too far behind, and the hunt for a White Mage for true Go mode was on. They were neck and neck going into the Zeromus around the 1 hour and 20 minute mark, but a pair of unfortunate wipes allowed Invenerable to zip ahead and take first at 1 hour, 26 minutes and 55 seconds. Dragondark was right behind him by about 3 minutes, and Zyrak took third 3 minutes later. Silverfire's grueling grind and tragic wipe against the D-Machines led to a tough hunt for the crystal, but they valiantly carried on to defeat Zeromus at 1 hour, 52 minutes and 35 seconds.
Match 27 started off nice and open, beginning with Dark Knight Cecil, Yang, and the Magma Key. Big Dunka was the first to take advantage of it, diving down into the underworld at just 1:45. However, all four runners ended up following similar paths, trying to find anything they could to get into Go mode. It was Hippos who found the Darkness Crystal at Barren Inn at 28 minutes into the seed, but rabbit holes and tough battles on the moon whittled away his lead bit by bit until the others caught up. Kobahi skipped to the end of the lunar path to find the crystal at Ogopogo Spot, guarded by the Water Hag. So he snagged first place by nearly 17 minutes, winning at 1 hour, 26 minutes and 6 seconds. Dunka barely managed to edge out supremacy for second place in a close finish to this Scalakitty Classic.
Match 28 showed us early on that it was going to be a wild ride with Edward, Kane, and the Darkness Crystal to start. All players end up converging on ordeals around the same time and are awarded the curse of a hook seed. Rivers used amazing execution to beat Antlion and become the first player to reach the underground about 18 minutes before any other player and displayed an efficient clear of the underworld. But Ginger Damas showed us the power of calculated risks and decided to go straight to the moon for King Ryu grinding, before taking on the moon bosses without touching the underworld at all. In his sweep of the subterrane, he eventually made his way to the Pale Dim slot to find Water Hag guarding the crystal. Still up for another gamble, Ginger Damas is the first to attempt Zeromus with a low HP Porum as his white mage, but ends up wiping to an unfortunate Big Bang. Meanwhile, Rivers keeps up with the clean execution and is able to safely kill Zeromus with a much higher HP Rosa, while Ginger Damas grinds a couple of levels before taking out Zeromus himself. The race for third was neck and neck with Big Dunka and Vitasia starting Zeromus at about the same time, but Vitasia wipes to Big Bang due to an unfortunate reflect spell on Rosa, giving Big Dunka a third place finish.
Match 29 began with Palom, Sid, and what is quickly becoming everyone's favorite key item, the Magma Key. Opta Jr. was the first to dive down, and the others were quick to follow, finding Sirens at Tomra for some early grinding for the Quake Kid. The Baron Key in the Land of Summoned Monsters started a chain that ultimately led to Value at Baigan at the top of the Tower of Zot. Zyrak was the first runner to grab it. Logical deduction led to the conclusion that the Darkness Crystal must be back in the land of summon monsters, and Zyrek's quick fight against Rubicante in the Leviathan spot, along with that grinding earlier, immediately put him in go mode. While the others were all fighting on Earth, Zyrek did the poison walk of shame all the way down to Zeramis, and fought back from several near wipes for victory at 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 5 seconds. The Fizz and Opta Jr. were neck and neck when they hit Zeramis, and only 49 seconds separated them from their respective second and third place finishes. Hippos, meanwhile, had been on the moon hunting for the crystal and following multiple rabbit holes, until he saw those dot duns at 1 hour and 40 minutes and 8 seconds and decided to forfeit in the end. A special note about Match 30. The original match was won via use of the 64 floor glitch, which allows players to travel outside the normal bounds of the game. This glitch was declared to be against the spirit of free enterprise and was patched out of the game shortly thereafter. All the racers agreed to a fresh new match, which Alexa will now cover for us.
A Dark Knight Cecil, Yang, and Sand Ruby set Match 30 apart as Penguinator, Nirm, Aizen Tayama, and Scratch Dragon took the stage. Everyone turned in their Sand Rubies to wake Edge up from his nap in Kaipo, but Tower Keys, Luca Keys, Earth Crystals, and a hook had everyone running around the planet, finding little value aside from the pass and Babil. Most of the players had converged at around the 43-minute mark with only a few options left. While Scratch Dragon decided to try Zot, it was Penguinator who spelunked down into the sealed cave to find the Darkness Crystal behind Leviathan at 51 minutes and 50 seconds, the first player to do so. The others weren't too far behind though, and Scratch Dragon found Derek Mist hanging out in the pale dim spot on the moon. He continued on, but it was Nirm who decided to run back to the planet to check on Rydia's mom. Value was had in Mist, and Nirm zoomed his way to a win at 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 56 seconds. Aizen Tayama checked Mist next and took second place about 9 minutes later, with Scratch Dragon and Penguinator taking third and fourth places respectively.
Match 31 between Kobahi, Kirchin, Rivers McCown, and Aizen Tayama might have seemed like an ordinary start. Our old friend Yang was back, this time traveling with Kane and the Hook. Early value was found at Fabul, where the king handed over the Darkness Crystal in exchange for beating up a handful of Dark Imps. Lack of the Magma Key on the overworld fulfilled the promise of the free starting item, and Ogopogo looked at first to be the major gatekeeper of all things underworld. Most runners either wiped or noped on out of that fight. This seed wasn't through with the players just yet though, as they spent the better part of the next hour diving every dungeon and climbing every tower in search of the crystal. Finally, it was D-Mist at Plague Spot on the moon who proved to be the key to unlocking Go Mode, giving up the tower key which led to Azura and the crystal. Kobahi was the first to untangle this web, and it led to his win at 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 14 seconds. Astonishingly, Aizen, Kirchin, and Rivers all found their way to Go Mode at roughly the same time, and they all finished within just a minute and 13 seconds of each other. Can I just say that with King Fabul with the Darkness Crystal and Azura, Queen of the Summoned Monsters with the Crystal, could one say this seed was a royal pain?
The finale of the round of 32 matches began with Dark Knight Cecil, Sid, and the Tower Key for Great White Hope, F. Coughlin, R. McCone, and Zyrak. While there were some early checks, such as the players getting the rat tail at the Baron Inn, it was F. Coughlin who found the Magma Key at 17 minutes and 45 seconds. The others were right behind, Zyrak at 18 minutes and 45 seconds, Great White Hope at 20 minutes and 28 seconds, and Rivers at 22 minutes and 15 seconds. Though the racers didn't know it, finding the rat tail and the Magma Key opened up the most glorious crystal rabbit hole that we've encountered, one completely worthy of the final match.
If I may, Alexa, as the one who rolled this seed, take us through this amazing chain. Rattail and Baron Inn to Magma Key on Ordeals to Sylph Cave so we could talk to Sheila for a vanilla pan, then back to the Sylphs to return the pan to Sheila to get the hook so we could turn in the Rattail for the Twin Harp, and after all that, playing music for the audience yielded the crystal. But we're not done just yet. Once they were underground, everyone hit a wall in Dwarf Castle, where the crystal room was being raided by Leviathan and Wyvern. But after a short grind, Rivers was the first one through at 46 minutes and 45 seconds, and that was finally when this seed hit go mode.
However, it was another 22 minutes before we had a winner, when F. Collin beat Zeromus at 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 25 seconds. Rivers came next at 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 32 seconds with a clutch second place, followed by Zyrak at 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 45 seconds. Great White Hope hung in there, driving all the way through Giant and Barren Castle hunting for a white mage, before finally beating Zeromus at 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 46 seconds. Scala, what deliciously devious Z-Sprite do you have for our spotlight this week?
Our Z-Sprite spotlight comes from Race 21, FF4 Miss, because what could be more fitting for free enterprise than defeating the very concept of FF4 itself? Before we close out this episode, let's look at the final results of the round of 32. Our top 12 are all assured a spot in the playoffs, and now we're moving into the play-in races to determine our final Sweet 16. For those racers who didn't make the cut, congrats on all the hard work you put in, and we've got high hopes for all of you in the future. Alexa, it has truly been a pleasure to share the desk with you for this episode.
Absolutely. Evil royalty needs to stick together, after all.
I'm not sure I consider myself to be an evil person.
Don't you catalog bosses from various games for the express purpose of terrifying people when they go to fight Zeromus? And get a twisted kick out of watching people play your famously trolly seeds?
Well, maybe just a little evil.